All right, I'd like to welcome you guys to this week's report. We had some pretty lousy weather in most areas this week. A couple of weather systems pushed through and messed things up, and the water temps dropped in a lot of areas. And it was pretty windy in a lot of places too. But the good news is that's all behind us now, and we have pretty good weather in the weekend everywhere. And looks like most of next week is nice as well. So if you're stuck doing Mother's Day stuff on Sunday, maybe take a day off next week and go out and do some fishing to make up for it, or just go out Saturday, call it good. But yeah, weather should not be an issue anywhere in our waters this weekend. The only thing I see is a little bit of a Catalina eddy condition, so it might be some southeast wind on the beach, especially up off the coast by Offshore and Santa Barbara. But once you get out of that zone, it should be pretty nice. But yeah, so talking about that, weather is they're saying now we're going to have a El Nino happening, which is a good thing for us. Pretty much the last El Nino was fantastic. All those big yellowtail, wahoo, blue marlin, everything else that came into our local waters. I don't believe that this El Nino will be as strong as that previous one. That was one of the bigger ones ever, I think. And I don't know that it's going to affect our summer this year. It may affect the fall into the winter, and maybe next summer a little bit more affected than anything else. But we have yet to see how. It's pretty early on in the season to predict the severity of it. So hopefully it brings us good things, and we will keep an eye on it, and I'll keep you posted on what I hear as we go along here. So let's head up to the map. All right, let's head up to the Channel Islands. They got hit pretty hard by the weather this week up there. I know it really played heck with the water temperature. I saw a picture from the Aloha Spirit earlier this week where their water temp gauge said 50 degrees. So that will definitely put a damper on things. Despite that, they did catch some fish up that way, both halibut and sea bass, mostly before the wind blew. But that area gets a lot of weather, so I think it's pretty resilient and should bounce back. Now we have some stable weather up that way. May not be great this weekend, but I think you give it a few days and that bite should resume. And hopefully as we go into the new moon here, it improves again. And then on the next full moon, hopefully it gets to where it should be for this time of year, if we continue to have some stable weather. Heading down to San Nick and Santa Barbara Island. They're still getting some sea bass and halibut out at SBI and good rock fishing. I know there hasn't been a lot of coverage this week due to weather, nor has there been at Nick, but I know the El Dorado got a couple of halibut out at Nick over the weekend, one really, really big one. So they reported they're going to be mixing in some service fishing with their rockfish trips. So if you guys are interested in doing a little bit of that, double duty kind of stuff, I would check out the El Dorado. They pretty consistently run the Nick if you want to go there. San Clemente Island also got a lot of wind this week, but before it blew, the Thunderbird and the Fury had pretty good fishing out there on yellows and rockfish during the week there. Or over the weekend. I know that Fury, I think, had 20-something fish one day. It's hit or miss. It's not like a guaranteed flamethrower out there, but there's a chance at yellows, chance of nice halibut. And definitely they're still getting some really nice reds out that way, but they are fishing pretty deep. So just be aware that if you're heading out on an overnight trip to Clemente, to bring the appropriate tackle to fish deep water rock cod. And that pretty much is the case anywhere nowadays. If you're even going on a half-day trip, you should be ready to fish about 600 feet of water, because that's where most of the angling is being done at that depth or close to it. I was going to look at the island schedule for this weekend, but I did not. So I don't know if the island's open or closed. You'll have to check that yourself. Anytime you're going to go on an overnight trip to San Clemente Island or go there on your own boat, you can go to scisland.org, and they have a calendar of Navy closures and things like that you can check, which is a really helpful thing in deciding when to go there or where to fish if you do go there. Heading into Catalina, kind of status quo in there as well. The weather didn't do that any favors. I guess that bonita bite they were having slowed up a bit. Before the wind, they caught some nice halibut out there still. And I know over the weekend, the CCA had a tournament that was won, a calico bass tournament that was won there by team Josh Marquard, not missing up the names here, Matt Moyer, and his last name is Perkins. I can never remember his first name. I apologize to you. But they had some really big calicos at the island on swim baits, and I think they weighed almost a 6-pound average for their 3 fish they won a tournament with, which is a pretty darn good day by Catalina standards. There's still some halibut being caught. 3/4 boats are doing that, and bonita. So the 3/4 boats, for the most part, looks like they're going over there and trying to fish for surface fish, bonita, halibut, calico bass, stuff like that. Well, not halibut's not on the surface, but shallow water fish. And then depending on how that goes, they fall back on rockfish. So if you're going to go on one of those trips, you might want to be ready to do a little bit of both. If you're a private boater, you can probably go over to the island and catch bass right now. Any of the beaches or boiler zones, kelp on the backside of the island. I'm probably going to go over there Saturday, take a look. Maybe fish calicos in the morning and try and knock off some line class bonita for the Balboa Angling Club. And then maybe head offshore to look for some tuna, which I'll speak a little bit more about in a second here. I don't really have a lot to cover locally this week because I didn't really make it out. I went out Saturday morning. I had some boat issues. I've got a weird fuel issue with my boat where it acts like it has gas in it, but it doesn't. Where it has gas in it, acts as if it doesn't. But it's a very inconsistent problem, and I've been chasing around here for a while, and it got me again on Saturday. But that gives me an opportunity to talk about a point here. That this is a little picture that someone shared somewhere at some point. It really struck a chord with me when it comes to fishing, and it's the knowledge versus experience illustration. And basically, all these things I talk about here when I'm sharing information with you guys, be it about calico bass or which rod and reel works for me or where I look for tuna or any of these things, these are all dots that you can put up on your board of knowledge. But it's going to be up to you guys to go out there and make the connections on your own. That's going to give you the experience to be able to build on all this stuff. So while it may seem like a really simple thing to say, it's something that a lot of guys don't think about on the water or when they're fishing or anything. So you gather all this knowledge when you're out here fishing, or you're just surfing the internet or watching a video like this or doing things like that. But that knowledge will get you a fish today. If you do exactly what was said, it happens to be a day where those fish are biting in that way, you'll catch one. But if you just take that as an isolated situation and then take the next lesson or the next fish as another isolated thing, you're never going to get the experience to make those connections. And once you start making those connections, it gets a lot easier with fishing. I mean, the connections you make with fishing spotted bay bass will make you a better bluefin tuna fisherman, will make you a better rock cod fisherman, will do, it'll help you find a yellowtail when they're biting. But you need to start actively trying to connect the dots as to what's happening when you're on the water. And that's, it's not hard. Catch a fish, get a bite, don't get a bite, see something different. Ask yourself, why is this happening? Why did this just happen? And make up some theory. And then test that theory. Let's say you go, you stop on a rock and you catch a sand bass on a swim bait or a slug, and you go to the next rock, you don't catch anything. So, what was different at that first rock? Were the fish there? Did it look the same on a meter? Did something change? Is there current here? Is there different water color? Is there any number of circumstances? So, only by guessing at that can you make the connection to move on to the next step. So, every bit of experience you get out there is going to make you connect more of those dots to your knowledge and make you a better, well-rounded angler for every species out there. So just something to think about. And hopefully next week I'll have a lot more fishing to talk about than I do myself, because I'm going to take some days off, plan on fishing maybe 4 or 5 days in the next week here. Anyway, so let's talk about offshore fishing. The Bight down at San Diego is back on again. I'm sure that if you watch Tony's Sport Boat Roundup video this week, she'll tell you all about the big bluefin and heavy gear you're going to need. I saw today the San Diego Post to make sure and bring some 60 and 80 pound on the full day trips, because they're getting those big 100-pound plus tuna down there. The best bite is still at night, it looks like, you know, and that's at knife jigging and deep drop sardine rig and all that nonsense. I know that they just put out a video on knife jigging on BD Outdoors as well. So if you guys are interested in checking out more about that, they talk about the higher end tackle and the stuff that you can use jigging tackle as opposed to big heavy rail rods and nonsense like that. But that's on the YouTube channel as well, so I recommend checking it out. I think it was posted earlier this week, or maybe last week. So yeah, your best shot is still going a 1.5-day trip. You know, you gotta get a night bite, and that's gonna be your deal. You know, and then you can even do a full day, but you know, if you're gonna do that, might as well do a 1.5 days so you get to fish the whole day. You know, there's kelp patty yellows, there are bluefin biting during the day, so that would be your best chance to take advantage of it. Full day boats are catching a few bluefin as well. It's not as good because they're not biting as well during the day, but there are fish around, like the big ones that San Diego caught, and they're getting some nice kelp patty yellows as well. So kind of I'd bring a fly line setup for the yellowtail, and you know, maybe a fly line and a heavy setup for the tuna. Again, it's just the standard stuff you've been bringing on the boat for the last few years. But private boaters, some good news is these fish, as I mentioned last week, I said there may be more fish up here than we know about. After that video, I talked to somebody at the launch ramp and heard that there were 3 fish caught a week ago Tuesday within a mile of the beach in Newport. They were gone the next couple days later when somebody went back out there and looked. There are fish up well into U.S. waters now. I'm not saying it's a lot of fish, but there are fish. It may have just been one batch of fish. I talked to Captain Jamie of Seasoned Sport Fishing earlier today, and he said that about a few days before that, there were some fast-moving schools down off San Diego that were hauling butt up the line. So that may have been those same fish. They may be off Morro Bay by now, or they may have looped back around or something like that. That's why I'm going to look when I leave Catalina Saturday. If I go there, I'm going to take a look down the Catalina Ridge and in through the banks off Dana to see if I see any signs of life. You know, I looked at the chlorophyll chart in the SST, and there's like I said, there's no upper boundary for that stuff. We have good clean water, similar temperatures to where those fish are down below. Well into U.S. waters, even inside a cat. I think that's where those fish slid up into. But who knows? It's pretty early season. They're not biting the surface lures that well anyway. But you know, I figure it's worth a shot to go and give that a try. But something else I'm going to predict here is within the next, I guess, month or less, some of the boats fishing the 14-mile bank for rockfish are going to start seeing some bluefin too. A lot of times over the last few years, that has been one of the early season areas where those fish have been popping up, and the only boats seeing them are the Catalina Express boats running out of Dana and to Avalon, and now there's actually coverage out there with guys fishing cod. So, you know, if you go fish cod at the 14-mile bank on your own boat, I'd bring some kind of popper or a Rapala subwalk or something like that along if you're going to go. Pretty much anywhere you go offshore right now, I definitely carry that along in the boat. It may just take up space, but if you find some fish up breaking, you'll be happy to have it. I guess that's about it for this week. I hope you guys have a great weekend and good luck if you fish.